Hey everybody, I hope you guys have enjoyed the first part of the training, and I hope it has really reinforced to you what an incredible time it is to be at T-Mobile, and particularly what an unprecedented time it is to work for T-Mobile for business. There's never been a better time to be on this team, I can tell you that. Being somebody that's been here for many, many years, what we're doing is completely unprecedented. And the reason why is very, very simple. For the first time in our company's history, we have a network that gives us permission to talk to and transact with any business customer in the US. And that wasn't the case a few years ago. The single biggest change that we've undergone relevant to our business customers is our network. And look, network's important to every single customer, but for a business customer, network is everything. If I drop calls or I can't start a data session, that's not just annoying, it can cost me money. So we have to be able to portray confidence with our network. We have to be unapologetic about what our network can do for customers. And I think our responsibility as account managers and salespeople working with our business customers is to make sure that customers understand the network journey that we've been on and help them build confidence that we have a network asset that will work for them. I also think it's really important that we're honest and straightforward about where our network has come from, and that a few years ago our network may not have worked for them. And I think that honesty and being straightforward and addressing what oftentimes could be the big elephant in the room will help customers build confidence with us and build trust with customers that things have changed and things are different. But one of the things that is really important from this training, and as you leave this training, is that you really build confidence in telling this network story and build practice in telling this network story, because it's the first and most important thing that we have to be able to describe to customers so that we can tell them about all the other great things that we're doing. If we can't build confidence with our customers on network, all the other stuff that we're doing doesn't really matter. They won't listen to us. So I thought I'd spend a couple minutes just talking a little bit from my perspective on the journey that we've taken with our network and why things are so dramatically different today than they were just even a few years ago. So for me, the journey really starts in 2012. And 2012 was a big milestone for us because we had just come out of a failed acquisition with AT&T Wireless. And part of that failed acquisition was T-Mobile US received what was the biggest breakup fee in corporate history. And the breakup fee came in two flavors. One was a bunch of cash, and the second was a bunch of spectrum. And we desperately needed both things to build out a network that was not just up to par with competition, but something that could be considered second to none. So that was the first major milestone. Shortly thereafter, we made a big purchase. We made a big purchase of a company that you may have heard of. It's called MetroPCS. And the MetroPCS purchase really helped us accelerate our network growth in a couple of ways. The first is Metro already had a great network, and we were able to take their really great network, one that was centered in urban areas, think about your NFL cities, and we were able to merge it with the network assets that T-Mobile already had. So immediately in those cities, we were able to have a bigger, more robust, better network experience. They also had a lot of spectrum that we were able to incorporate across the entire country to help us really accelerate our 4G LTE build out. The second thing that the Metro acquisition helped us do is we went public when we bought Metro. And going public allowed us to more easily raise money that was important for us to make additional network investments. And man, we made some really, really big ones. A couple of the big ones that are highlights that I think it's really important for our customers to know are around spectrum. And there's two very noteworthy spectrum purchases that are important. The first was a purchase of 700 megahertz low band spectrum. And you know, I don't think it's important that you guys are all engineering experts, but I think it is important that you're able to talk through some of the facts and differences between mid-band spectrum, which is what our network had historically been built on, and these low-band spectrum assets that we received that we've been deploying over the last several years. The way that I like to describe low-band versus mid-band spectrum is kind of like AM/FM radio. Think about your experience using AM/FM radio. If you're in a big city and you're close to where the FM radio station is, you get a great signal. But man, as soon as you drive out of city limits, it's really difficult to maintain that FM signal. AM, on the other hand, you could be 100 miles out of town and you're still pulling in the AM radio signal. And AM is akin to what low band spectrum is. Low-band spectrum allows signal to propagate further from a tower. The signal goes further from a tower than the mid-band spectrum does. It also allows for signal to penetrate into buildings better. So mid-band spectrum is still great. It makes our data super, super fast. It gives our customers a great experience when they're connected to it. But when it's combined with low-band spectrum, you get a signal experience that is better in rural areas. It's also better in areas where you're trying to use in a building. So the 1-2 punch of both of those is really, really powerful and has transformed our network. So when we bought the 700 megahertz spectrum, we've spent the last several years deploying it, and man, has it made a difference. You know, just look at our coverage map in 2012 or 2013 compared to today. You know, where we had literally 0 LTE signal, to today, when we end the year this year in 2017, we will cover 321 million people in the US. There's only 330 million people in the US, so 321 million of them will have the ability to connect to the T-Mobile LTE network, which, by the way, is going to be more than what AT&T and Verizon have. And a large part of that is due to the 700 megahertz spectrum that we purchased and deployed to about 250 million Americans. That spectrum also helped us increase the size of our network by over 1.5 million square miles. So a lot of the places that looked like Swiss cheese, those big square states in the middle of the country, that stuff is all turning magenta with the 700 megahertz spectrum. So that's the first big low-band spectrum chapter in our story. The second big one happened earlier this year. And earlier this year, we participated in a big government auction for some more of that really, really valuable low-band spectrum. This time it was in the 600 megahertz band. And man, T-Mobile was the big winner. In fact, 45% of the proceeds from that auction went to T-Mobile. We spent $8 billion on new spectrum assets. And we got spectrum literally that covers every single square inch of the US, and not just the continental US. We're talking about Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, the Gulf of Mexico, areas that our competition can't even touch. And we got not only a wide span of spectrum, it's going really deep. We have 31 megahertz on average across the country, which will allow us not only to build coverage everywhere, it will allow us to build tons and tons of capacity. So as we bring more and more business customers to T-Mobile, they're going to continue to get the great experience that they've come to expect with us on things like data speed and drop calls. So, man, we've made so much progress to date. We are in a position now where our network in most places is second to none. Second to none to a Verizon and AT&T experience. So you should be super, super excited and completely unapologetic about what we have to sell today. The story has completely changed. And when you can describe that to customers and build confidence with them that we have a network that they can rely on, man, it allows us permission to go talk about the other really, really exciting things that we're doing. We've taken a very, very similar approach in business to what we've taken in our consumer business, where our mission is to listen to customers, really deeply understand and learn about what their pain points are and what things leave them very unsatisfied with this category, and then go deploy innovation into the market that changes it. And a lot of the things that pained consumers are also really big pain points for our business customers, maybe in a slightly different way, but still really big pain points. So think about it. Contracts. Man, who likes to sign a contract? Who wants to be tied down by a contract, particularly when it doesn't give you as a business any benefit? Overages and price predictability. I can tell you, talking to dozens and dozens of business customers, they hate data buckets. They hate data buckets because they're confusing and they force businesses into terrible decisions. They either buy way too much and never use it, or they don't buy enough and they get slammed with overages. Or even worse, they have to spend money hiring a third party to actually manage data buckets for them. It's completely ridiculous. And the great thing about our proposition is we can radically simplify things for businesses. One plan, completely unlimited. They don't have to look at a meter, and they know all of their employees are going to get a great experience. So once you can talk about the network story, you can talk about these other really powerful innovations that we've made that highly differentiate us from those other guys and really meet some of the big expectations and solve some of the big pain points for our business customers. So what I'd ask of you, get very, very familiar with this network story. make sure that you understand the facts, make sure that you practice it with your peers, and make sure that you really lead off with your customers talking about it. And be honest and transparent about where the network was. And that, a few years ago we may not have been the best choice for them, but give us a chance because things have changed. I also would highly encourage you to both tell the story and then have customers experience it for themselves. Give them some demo phones. Have them give phones to influencers within their company. So they're not just hearing it from us, they're actually experiencing it from themselves. And I can tell you, that has been a game changer for us across many, many companies in the United States. So have a great rest of the day. Really enjoy the training. Please feel free to reach out at any time with any questions or comments that you have. And I look forward to meeting you all in person very, very soon.